Hi guys, and welcome back to another Community Talk podcast alongside UtdHenry. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad, thanks, mate. Thank you for having me on. Looking forward to this. Should be a good one.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be a great guest, mate. We're keeping this Community Talk series running every week, but because I was ill last week, we're just doing 2 in the 1 week. So we'll get started quickly. I would just like to basically hear about your ideal starting team. So what we're going to talk about, which is very different to the podcast that I just ran there with Ben Pearce from All for United, the owner of All for United, which was very well received. We live streamed that one, but this one will just be recorded and brought out tomorrow, which is Thursday. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, so it'll come out on Thursday. So we in that podcast we were obviously talking about the season so far, but I'll be talking with Henry today about the season to come. So I want to know, obviously it's international break just now, so I've had a lot of time to sit and think about the season going forward.
Yeah.
I'd really like to hear about what's your ideal team going into the game at the weekend against West Bromwich Albion. I mean, obviously it'll be a different game. I mean, West Bromwich Albion aren't your Chelsea, Manchester City, Liverpool type teams that are obviously on the lower scale in the Premier League.
Yeah.
How would you even a couple of key positions? Who would you start? Whereabouts?
Okay. First of all, just before I start telling you the team, there's a leaf blower outside, so I apologise for that. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, sort of whirring away. It's been going all morning, sort of. Yeah. Anyway, key positions. I don't know. It's a bit of a tough one, really, because I think there's quite a few contentious positions, and I think sort of the international break always throws up a few knocks and injuries here and there, and it's a bit of a tough one to try and actually sort of work out who's fit and who's not really. I mean, going from just the goalkeeper, David De Gea's got to start. He's done nothing to suggest otherwise.
Well, that's actually quite funny because you say David De Gea there. I mean, I've been watching the international break quite a lot. And he's not been starting for Spain. And I don't know if you've been watching it. It's been Unai Simon of Atletico Bilbao, who's a mid-table Spanish team just now. I wouldn't even really say he's on form. Maybe he's just out of contention from Enrique. I'm not too sure. But it's a very strange one. I mean, we've seen more of Dean Henderson, surprisingly, in the international break than what we have of David De Gea. But yeah, I would probably agree with you on that one. Go with David De Gea. So what about other players?
I agree with you, though. It's a bit strange. Just to comment on sort of that. It's always been a bit weird with Spain, I think, over the years. I think they sort of lost trust in David De Gea a little bit, sort of turned them. We know, obviously, we've seen from the way sort of Real Madrid fans treat their players, there is this sort of siege mentality if a player doesn't do well. And I think on the international stage, that's sort of similar. In the 2018 World Cup was obviously not a great campaign for De Gea. The Portugal game sort of springs to mind when he sort of let quite a weak left-footed Ronaldo shot slip through him, amongst other things. And since the end, sort of, I think even Kepa was getting picked ahead of him at some point. So yeah, but no, for United, I think De Gea's been actually quite good this season. I think he's been had a good start. Obviously, we know past couple of years has been maybe a bit rocky for him, but I've always stood by him. I love David De Gea personally, and if that means Dean Henderson sitting on the bench, I'm afraid, we've got to start De Gea. I think he's definitely our best option. Going towards the back four, then obviously left back's a bit of an enigma at the minute. Sort of Alex Telles, lots of sort of, I'm sure you've been on the pulse with the rumours of him sort of testing positive again, and then he didn't test positive again.
Yeah, it seems as if it was more about the antibodies that were inside obviously his system. And just to confirm, we're pretty sure that he will be able to start at the weekend, but we might even see Brandon Williams because he's hardly even played for Brazil over these couple of games. So that's what I would say. Like, we could even possibly see Brandon Williams in at left back.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think it's not really up for debate that if we could pick one of the two. If Alex Telles is fit, I think it's a no-brainer. Really, if he can even get 60 minutes or something like that on the board, start him for that reason. Obviously, Brandon Williams, not really. I think we're all in agreement now that he's not of starting quality for Manchester United as much as some people might like him. I think he's probably more suited to being an understudy to Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back, I think, rather than sort of Telles and Shaw at left back. Obviously, he's right-footed as a left back. Probably not the best thing going forward, at least in my eyes. But we'll have to see, as you say. Obviously, I'd rather see Tellez, but if it means sort of Tellez not quite being match fit, then we might see, as you say, Brandon Williams maybe getting sort of 60, 70 minutes, and then Tellez coming on for a little while. But we'll have to see. I think we're all in agreement that we'd like to see Alex Tellez at left back.
Yeah, so going on at your midfield, I'd obviously quite agree with your defence so far, but midfield, I mean, obviously there's a situation in midfield, and it seems as if Scott McTominay, who's obviously been playing centre back and for Scotland,
yeah.
But then you look at him and Fred in midfield, it seems as if they need to play together. Do you think we'll go with a 3 in midfield, or do you think we'll go with a diamond? What do you think will line up in that sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure really. It's always tough to call. If I'm honest, I'd probably see us going with a 3. I think the times when we played the diamond, perhaps the sides we've been playing have been a bit more expansive. The one that springs to mind when it sort of worked best was Leipzig, when we sort of used it then. It's obviously Leipzig sort of played quite a high line, and we know Julian Nagelsmann likes to play quite an open game, and obviously we sort of picked that apart absolutely brilliantly with the diamond. Obviously West Brom aren't going to be the same. They're going to sit back, try and soak up the pressure. It'll be interesting to see which personnel Ollie goes with that 3, because obviously you don't need as much defensive cover as I think we did against Everton. West Brom are a different kettle of fish, really. Fred and McTominay, as you say, they always seem to play with each other, almost as if they themselves can't act as a pivot. Fred by himself, you'd think probably not enough cover. McTominay by himself, obviously there isn't perhaps that trust there yet for that to take place. But as you say, he has been playing centre-back for Scotland, so maybe we could see sort of McTominay stepping into what is now what I'd consider sort of the Matic role, which is sort of a single base with sort of a box-to-box, and then sort of Bruno as well, so whether that be Pogba or whoever else. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what he goes with. I imagine it'll be a bit more expansive. I'd like to say that he'd try Van der Beek and Fernandes together, because obviously I think that's an interesting, 2 absolutely brilliant players, 2 of the best players we've got at the club technically. Together, we haven't really seen them play together, just that clash of positions. If there's a time to try it, though, I think it would be now against West Brom, the side that's going to sit deep. It's just a question as if whether or not Ollie will drop Fred or McTominay, which I can't see happening. I think he'll stay with them, start them both, and maybe I think we might see a largely unchanged midfield from Everton.
Yeah, I think that I need to agree with you there. And Fred and McTominay, I don't really like that fact about them. Obviously, I'm Scottish. I do like McTominay, and I love the fact that he chose Scotland. But I think it is obviously very limiting, the fact that you need to play 2 players. Whereas with Matic, you would usually just stick to the one. But I think Matic, you don't use Matic for a game against West Brom. You use Matic for games that are a lot kind of. I don't want to disrespect West Brom because lose, but you know what I mean, like your bigger games, like your Chelsea's and Liverpool's, things like that. So anyway, up front, I think personally, I would go for Rashford out on the left. I would go Martial down the middle. He hasn't had many minutes for France, but I mean, hopefully he's back. He does need to find his form, and fingers crossed we'll be able to get a goal. And on the right, I mean, we've not got a right wing. Like, that's the issue. So, I mean, I can't see Mason Greenwood starting. I mean, I hope he does, but because everything just now that's going on, it seems as if he's having a kind of almost a break. We've been in the limelight. So I think you could even possibly look at Juan Mata out in the right, because he's not really got anyone else. Possibly Juan Mata or, Dan James. He always seems to get in the team.
Yeah.
What's your views on the front 3, if that's the formation, obviously, that you were going for?
Yeah, I'd quite like to see Edinson Cavani start. I know he started for Uruguay at the time of recording last night. Obviously got sent off, I think. Yeah. But I think he's done enough in the time that we've seen him. I know he's only sort of got 1 goal, but even sort of his pressing and his attitude and his runs, obviously against Chelsea, nearly scored his first touch. You can see that those near post runs, he's lethal. I think I'd really like to see him start. I think West Brom's the sort of game, again, with all due respect to West Brom, as you've said, it is a game where it'd be good to see him get a good sort of 60, 70 minutes under his belt. So I'd love to see Edinson Cavani start. What that would mean for the rest of the front 3, I'd probably say, I know Martial's not a big fan of playing on the left, and we've sort of established that over the years, but he used to do a great job there under Mourinho. So maybe Martial out on the left on this occasion, Cavani down the middle, and maybe Marcus Rashford out on the right. I think probably, Rashford might be our best right winger, sort of, if he plays. I know, obviously, he's probably our best left winger as well. But you look at that right-hand side, as you say, there's not really that many options. And this is the problem, isn't it? We sort of spoke about this all summer, and it got a bit boring in the end, sort of the falling over Jadon Sancho. But it is true, who we left without on that right-hand side. Dan James, nothing more than a squad player in my eyes. Juan Mata, the same. See, I'd like to see that front three tried out, because I think they are our three most lethal attacking prospects.
Yeah, I think I need to agree with you on that, but technically, I mean, I think Ole won't go with that. I think he'll probably keep Martial central. I think he'll bench Cavani. It seems like that's the role Cavani's going to play with us. Then we'll look at one of the squad players out in the right. But anyway, we're going to move on to the next question I've got for you, and basically it's a question that has been on my mind for a while, and I've been wanting to talk about it on Trafford Talk, and not really had the time, but it seems as if we've came back to this same situation once again. And Luke Shaw's injured. Yeah. He has got off to a good start this season, but back at square one again, mate. And we also need to talk about the other reoccurring players who have been injured. But we'll start off with Luke Shaw. Like, what's your views on him? I mean, we've obviously spoke about Alex Telles and Brandon Williams. We know what they can do. What do you think about Luke Shaw? Do you think he needs to move on? Do you think he needs more time? What's going wrong? It's a hard one.
It's such a tough one. It's such a tough one, as with other recurring players I'm sure you'll go on to mention in a minute. But going back to the beginning, so I think when we signed him from Southampton, I think we were all in agreement that it was a sort of a fantastic signing. He was this young. I think he was 18, or he possibly might have been 19 at the time when we signed him, but really young prospect. Obviously, before the leg break, he was just brilliant. Him and Memphis Depay formed a really formidable sort of left-hand side there, and I'd argue. I know people laugh at me for that, but he's probably up there with sort of the best sort of left backs in the world at the time, sure, for a little while. He really was magnificent, getting up and down, overlapping, a great attacking prospect. Then the leg break obviously came. Since then, he's really struggled. He's had a few managers now sort of comment on his fitness. Some people could say that was sort of an attack from Louis van Gaal or a personal attack from Mourinho, but it's sort of recurring now. There's obviously a bit of a problem there, with all due respect to Luke Shaw. A bit of a problem with that, and obviously with his injuries as well, they've just been recurring throughout the years. I was very critical of him for a couple of years, really, when I thought just move him on. I thought I'd sort of seen enough of him, and we're giving him enough chances. And actually after lockdown, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. It sort of revitalised Luke Shaw almost. And there were times when sort of he got injured over the lockdown period, and Marcus Rashford just sort of looked a bit lost out on the left without Shaw there. And I thought Shaw was offering a really good, as I say, sort of, as he did back in sort of 2015, a really good overlapping option, and it worked sort of really well with Rashford. And as you say, he hasn't had the worst start to the season, really. I haven't specifically picked him out and thought he's been terrible. I don't think he's been magnificent either. I thought the Everton performance, people were quite impressed. I thought it was all right. But obviously, massive shame for him to get injured. And the question that you asked there is a good question. What to do with him now? Do you keep him around? Because you want your squad players to be reliable, and that's the thing.
Yeah, it's not an easy one.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's just not reliable. You can't rely on him to sort of be a backup, let alone a regular starter, due to his sort of persistent injury problems. I don't know. It's tough, really. We'll have to see. Maybe one more chance, but how many chances can you keep giving to players like this? And where would he go? How would we shift him? What the wages he's on? There's a lot of questions to be asked about Shaw, and yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so what I think about Luke Shaw is, you summed it up absolutely perfectly there. How many chances does Luke Shaw need? Because I mean, we're back at this stage again, and I'm not willing to give him more chances. I understand the leg break, absolutely terrible injury. Yeah. But I mean, Marcus Rashford basically broke his back not that long ago, and he's managed to recover from it. I mean, players obviously recover different; their bodies work differently. Rehabilitation time completely different as well. We all know this, but I mean, you look at it now. How many years ago was that? That was back in Louis van Gaal against PSV. It's too long, and it's reoccurring injuries. I mean, you look at. I'm going to go on and talk about Eric Bailly as well. I feel as if he's not got a future at the club because his legs are made of glass, mate. Like he's running about the park. I think he's very reckless as well. He reminds me of Phil Jones, like back at a period of time where Phil Jones was actually okay. Yeah, I'm not going to say he was good. He was okay, and he always managed it, but he flung himself into tackles that were really putting his body at risk.
Yeah.
And I feel as if that's what Eric Bailly does now. And to be honest, does now. He always has, but we've just not seen as much of him.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, we don't need players like that. We don't need players picking up the wage bill, bigging it up. I mean, Luke Shaw's on obviously over 100k a week, I'm sure. Eric Bailly will be on pretty similar, I guess. I think it's just an absolute waste of time having guys like that floating about the physio room. It doesn't make sense that they're there. Obviously, Luke Shaw, and I must agree with you as well before we move on. He has been sensational since, probably not sensational. He's been good.
Yeah.
Since the return. So credit where credit's due. But I think Alex Telles overall is way better, mate. Like so much better. And I think people also need to remember that he can defend as well. A lot of people like to jump on and say, "Oh, Alex Telles can't defend." He can. It's just he scores penalties, so it looks as if like people use stats. I think, mate, more than anything. And yes, stats tell the truth, but they're also slightly. I mean, I know I'm contradicting myself here. They're very deceiving.
No, yeah, good on, spot on.
In the way that with Telles, he takes penalties, so he's dropped like 13, 14 goals a season. Whereas, I mean, if he didn't, he'd probably be on more than Shaw. Let's be real, but it would be a lot less. So moving on, obviously we're talking about the future and going forward with United. So after this international break, I mean, it's November now, so we've not got long until January, where we're going to get some journalists on, get them involved. We've got a few lined up. United Paper, the host, is bringing them on. But first of all, I want to hear, Henry, obviously I know you talk to a lot of journalists as well yourself, you know quite a lot about the market. So what do you think about January? And like, do you think we're going to sign players? Talking about the manager as well, do you think possibly time for change? Like, just honestly, what do you think overall? What do you think is going to happen in January?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, really. I feel like I say that to every question. It's all a bit tough to dissect. It's hard to predict what Manchester United are going to do as a football club, and the way it's run, we all know is strange. It's hard to predict as a fan. You sort of sit back and you are almost baffled by sort of majority of the decisions that the sort of club makes on a transfer level, on a sort of club level, squad, manager, everything. You seem to question what they're doing. January's never been a massive month for Manchester United. And obviously, this year we signed Bruno Fernandes, which obviously is, I can't wax lyrically enough about that signing. It's an absolutely phenomenal signing. It was good that it was done, but it should have been done in the summer, really. And you think sort of comparable to this summer, the big target was Jadon Sancho. We didn't get him. Can I see us going and getting him in January like we did with Bruno? Probably not. Dortmund aren't going to want to sell up and have to find a replacement in that January window. It's a very tough window to operate in. We know, obviously, the pandemic obviously isn't going to help out either. That's going to throw up more, boundaries and problems for clubs in going out and finding replacements specifically. Maybe not just for United's finances, which we know are obviously a problem, but for the clubs who we're looking to buy off, they've got to then go and replace players, etc. It's just a knock-on sort of domino effect. And I struggle to give you names, to be honest, unfortunately, Robbie. I'd love to be sincere and give you names that I'd like to see us sign, but I think they're just out of reach. I think, Manchester United are a club that likes to operate in the summer. We know how long we like to take to get deals done. They usually drag on. Whether there's sort of negotiations going on now for players for next summer, I wouldn't sort of be surprised that will drag on for months and months. But positions I'd like to see targeted, I think a centre-back needs to be on the agenda. I know there were mentions across the summer, weren't there, of sort of Deo Upamecano and Badia Shiel and other players. Gabriel, obviously, who ended up going to Arsenal, who, by the way, has looked excellent. I think would have been a decent signing for us. Yeah, and especially against us. His performance against us, I thought, was very impressive. But yeah, someone to go alongside Harry Maguire, probably. Right wing's obviously still a massive problem. We haven't had a proper right winger since probably Angel Di Maria, I'd probably say. And even that was a short-lived period of time. But yeah, those are probably the two main positions. I'd like to see us target a Matic replacement. I think with all due respect to Nemanja Matic, he's a magnificent footballer. I really do love Matic, consistent sort of performer. His legs are on the way out. He can't play twice a week now. There's someone that sort of needs to come in and sort of play his role. I think Declan Rice is someone I've always earmarked, someone who I think would be perfect to replace Nemanja Matic. Personally, I know people have doubts about Declan Rice, but yeah, those are the positions I'd say to target. With regards to a manager, all depends what happens in the next sort of couple of months. You know, things can change on a knife edge. At the minute, I think the club have just got to stick by him for now. Obviously, things need to improve. You know, Manchester United being in the bottom half of the Premier League isn't anywhere near acceptable. I think we'd all unanimously agree that that's the case. But we'll have to see how Ole gets on in the next couple of months. Got some testing fixtures. You know, the Christmas period is a tough time, especially for managers with sort of squads as well.
Yeah, he's obviously got some very tasting fixtures coming up, but I think we need to obviously judge him whenever we see these games coming, game by game. But as of now, I mean, he basically saved his job, I think, against Everton. It was good performance for the team. It seems as if obviously the team are willing to play for him, which I haven't seen much from managers in the past, which is good. But yeah, the players as well. I mean, it's an absolute mess the way that we've been linked to all these players, and we seem to have had a lot of interest in several centre backs, midfielders, obviously right wing as well, Jadon Sancho. We've not landed any of them. Really, all our first choice signings in that window, we didn't seem to get any of them, and it's fingers crossed we'll manage to bring in at least one player in January.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Diallo's Ahmed Traore Diallo is coming in. I've also seen he's got issues with work permit, so fingers crossed we will get obviously that sorted for January.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that deal, for example, that came out of nowhere. Like, I did not see that coming. Diallo and Pelistri, it seemed as if because we missed out on the young guy from, was it Belgrade?
Oh yes, yeah. It
seemed as if that deal was almost done, and then it's almost as if we went for Pelistri because we missed out on him.
Yeah,
but they're not really going to be starters, are they? We need first team players who are going to come in straight into the team and make an instant impact, which we're lacking at the moment. We're lacking creativity for the wings, I would say.
Yeah. No,
I mean, you look at a right wing, and I mean, see, now we spoke about the ideal starting 11 against West Brom. We were struggling to actually find names for right wing.
Yeah,
because I mean, Juan Mata isn't a right wing. No way. See the way he plays; he's very slow, and he's down the middle. He's down the middle, and then you look at Rashford. Is he even a right wing? No, it's crazy. It's just mental what's going on. The fact that wing hasn't really been strengthened for years. It's absolutely crazy. Can't go over it. And I seem to always have this conversation with guys week in, week out. Like, what are we going to do here? Like, what is the team? And if he's like, I don't know. Should we go narrow? Whenever we go narrow, it doesn't work because like the philosophy doesn't really suit us, does it? Going narrow unless we go with the 5 at the back, and then the wingers, obviously, the wing backs. Sorry, they like to get forward. But yeah, I'm going to go on to another point that I've been thinking about, and obviously it's international break just now. We've seen quite a lot of United players playing, such as, well, not David here, as we said. I mean, Cavani, Maguire, who obviously got a goal, Scott McTominay, who managed to help Scotland in the penalty shootout, and I mean, he obviously made a mistake inside the 90 minutes. The goal that went in, but still made it. But yeah, that's only a couple of players. So what do you think about the guys who are going to excel going forward in the season? Because personally, I mean, I'd like to have seen Anthony Martial getting a couple more games for France over this time. He was an unused substitute last night against Portugal, which was unfortunate. So what's your views overall?
Yeah, I think Anthony Martial is probably someone who's come out a bit more positively, as you say, an unused substitute last night. But I think Didier Deschamps has spoken well about Martial. I'm sure you might have seen his comments. He said that sort of he deserved a goal in the last game. I can't remember who France played. You'd have to jog my memory, but in the game before Portugal.
Finland, I think.
Who was it? Sorry.
Finland.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Finland. So
yeah, the 2-0 defeat where Pogba was pretty poor. I mean, but Pogba caused several issues in that game. I mean, he didn't. I don't know if you've seen the clip. In it, I mean, it was clips. You need to obviously watch what you're taking from it. But I was watching the game. He really should have covered the ground, and I don't know. I feel as if it was very lazy from him. Maybe Pogba needs a rest. I don't know. Like, what do you think about the guys who are going to excel then? Because obviously we're talking about Martial.
Martial. I think, sorry, it was the game before Finland I was on about for Martial with. Deschamps made some good comments, said that he sort of deserved the goal for his performance, which is obviously promising. We want to see Martial do well. Another player who's probably not had the best start to the season, really. Not been great, especially in the league. I think, the Champions League, he's been okay. But in the league, not as good. That's probably why I'd start with Cavani in the next game. But, promising signs are there. As you say, Harry Maguire starting to, gets a goal and, starting to string together a few good performances now. And Maguire's someone who was a massive fan of when we signed him. I thought last season, I know a lot of people were sort of happy with how he was last season. I personally think he wasn't that good. I think, Harry Maguire's a top-class centre-half on his day, and I think he could do a lot better. The performance against Everton from him was obviously brilliant. As you say, got a goal for England as well. Things are looking up for him. I really hope he can start to sort of pull things together. And that's someone who I think I can see excelling is Harry Maguire, if he can just get his head down and start stringing together performances. I'd say Paul Pogba, it was really poor, the clip. I haven't watched, the full game or anything like that. But the clip of him sort of losing his man and looking frustrated as well after sort of the thing, I think he sort of realised himself that what he'd done was a big mistake and it was poor and, rightly so. It wasn't good enough for him there. And, he's got to get his head together as well and start to string together performances. But, if you ask me for sort of singular name who's been sort of stringing together good performances and looked more exciting over the international break, I'd probably say, the skipper, Harry Maguire. Yeah,
I think he's obviously back in the England team, which I don't know if you obviously watch the international break closely or you support England, but I thought he looked great for England. I think it was also good the fact that Dean Henderson managed to get on. Did he get enough minutes? No. But Dean Henderson's obviously quite a hard situation just now because De Gea does seem to be in form. I would say again, he seems to be very reliable. Whereas if you looked at it last season, Dean Henderson, I'd be crying out to start him because obviously Dean Henderson was one of the best keepers in the league last year and he was sensational. But I would need to agree with you on Maguire. I felt as if his goal dominant in the box. We need that more. I know it was up against Shane Duffy, who obviously watched Scottish football. And he plays for Celtic. He is really lacking confidence, Shane Duffy of the Republic of Ireland. I know it was obviously in a friendly, but Maguire was keeping winning headers against him. In the attacking box. He was fantastic in that game. And he was also with quite a poor defence next to him. He had I think it was Michael Keane, who I don't rate at all. I don't know how other people do. I think he's very, very inconsistent. Pretty similar to Pickford, actually. I think he's always got a mistake in him. And he's also got Tyrone Mings next to him. I really hope that is the defence that comes up against Scotland in the Euro 2020 next summer. Because those guys aren't great. Maguire's basically running the show himself there. But I thought he done amazing. I need to agree with you there as well. But I'm going to obviously move on to the next point, which is the expectations for the season ahead. And I just want to know your view basically on the Premier League to start off with. So, obviously we're sitting very deep in the league just now. I think it's 15th. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And it looks bad on paper, but we're still in the race for the title. And I didn't think I'd be able to say that. After getting beat 6-1 against Spurs, thankfully I was working, didn't manage to watch the game live, but watching it back, it was painful, absolutely painful. What's your expectations for the season going ahead?
The Premier League's wide open, isn't it? It's an absolute sort of mess at the minute. It could go anywhere. We've got this game in hand as well, which could fire us up the table if we can win that. It's just so wide open. It's so hard to judge. Obviously Liverpool have got these sort of injury problems coming through now. I think I just read a minute ago that Reece Williams is now injured as well. So that their sort of centre-back numbers are depleting quickly. And you'd think that they're starting to sort of struggle to be thrown into a title race. But obviously, we know the quality they've got going forward. City, you think there's got to be a resurgence at some point. They've had a poor start to the season. It's not good enough from them. Their fans won't be happy with how they've performed. Spurs, look good, I think, to be honest, under Jose. Sort of Son and Kane firing on all cylinders. But yeah, I'd say it's still, Spurs have still got inconsistencies to them as well. And I think there's always these little problems with sides. There's no clear winner this year. I think last year, obviously, you could sort of look at Liverpool and think that these guys are sort of incredibly dominant. No one's in the race, but now obviously it's wide open. I think Leicester are top of the league at the minute, aren't they? Sort of quietly chipping away in the background. No one really sort of spoke about Leicester, but they've ended up top of the league. Villa are obviously still, I think, in a decent spot as well. We're doing fantastically. But yeah, with regards to United, it's so hard to call. I'd like to think that we'd still end up in the top 4 at the very least. But you don't know. You don't know where all these United are. That's sort of the problem with it, isn't it? Consistently inconsistent, as someone sort of coined. Yeah, but we'll have to see. It's just whether we can sort of get a string of results together and start to really chip away at the top of the table and start to sort of push for top 4 and see how close we can get to the top of the league, which sounds absolutely absurd considering the start we've had. But I think if we win our next couple of our game in hand, I think we're only 5 points off top or something like that. It's not too bad, is it? Really?
Yeah, no. It seems as if though, like what I get from this league is that every team is picking up points somewhere.
Yeah,
like your top teams. I mean, like I'm not actually talking about your West Broms. There's quite a huge gap. I feel this year. I think there's like Burnley, Sheffield United, those kind of teams. They're really rock bottom this year. West Brom, and then you've got like your Aston Villas, your like Everton's even. I mean, Everton have been quite low this season. West Ham, they're picking up points against the bigger sides as well. These teams all seem to be like going for it this year, which we haven't seen for years. And I think it's the best Premier League we've seen for years.
Yeah.
I mean, watching United is absolutely painful, but watching like a random game like Leeds versus Aston Villa, I mean, I watched that game and it was fantastic. I didn't think I would enjoy it. I watched it because I think I was isolating.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got nothing else to do. Let's turn it on, and it was great. The game was great.
Yeah.
Every team seems to have a real philosophy this year that you can kind of see, and everyone seems to just be going for it. I mean, and they've got a chance against the big teams, and it's proven that. I mean, look where we are in the league, and we're still in it. It's going to be one of the lowest point winning league titles ever. It must be, because I mean, you look at it. Liverpool aren't going to breeze this league. Will they win? I mean, it's Liverpool. We don't know. They were fantastic last year. I still believe Man City will win the league. I don't know about you. Fingers crossed they don't. I hate Man City, obviously, but they've got quality, I think, which we're missing. I think they've got quality and depth as well. I mean, they brought in Ruben Diaz, and I was wondering, like, no way have they signed this guy for that amount of money. Like, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was well over 60 million.
Yeah.
For really an unproven Portuguese league centre back, which I don't know how they managed. Like, I thought they'd been able to negotiate a lot better than that, and the pressure was on him. And it seems as if he's basically breezed through the team. And I mean, I think Aymeric Laporte as well, if he can stay fit and stay in the team, I think Man City are in for a really good shout, because they've obviously got class going forward. But yeah, I mean, Gabriel Jesus seems to be catching a bit of form as well. Watching him last night against Uruguay, he looked sharp, fit. But yeah, I think Man City will win it. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll manage to be in and about it. I really don't want Man City to win, don't think that. But yeah, I think really, are we going to win the league? Hard to say, mate. Hard to say.
Yeah, very hard to say.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the Champions League and what we think about that, because obviously we picked up points against RB Leipzig where we absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
5-0. With Meccano, all these players, they've really got strength and depth as well. They've got a great team, great manager as well. Destroyed PSG in the first game. Was it the first game? Yeah, the first game.
Yeah.
No issues really. They weren't threatening. And you look at, and we go to Istanbul, and you're like, how do we lose against Istanbul, Besiktas, whenever we were?
Yeah.
It is draining being a United fan. The fact that we go and beat those two teams, and if we beat Istanbul, I don't want to say it, but if we had 9 points in 3 games, we basically qualified.
Yeah. No, it's
and now look where we are. Like
it sort of sums up United, really. I think those 3 games, isn't it? Sort of United since Fergie, or even under Ollie specifically. Actually, that's better to say that probably. Sort of beating the sides you consider to be harder, the bigger teams, and then losing to the small sides, literally just fantastically summarises sort of Ollie's time at United and the problems we've had. The PSG performance, as you say, was magnificent. One of the best performances I've seen, probably post Fergie. I might be exaggerating saying that, but genuinely, we were just absolutely brilliant. It was tactically spot on from Ollie. Fred and McTominay in midfield were just excellent. Wan-Bissaka, Twanzebe, the whole team played so well on that night. De Gea made a couple of great saves as well from their only sort of chances. And obviously Rashford with a really clutch goal as well. So that was just such a good performance, as you say. And then Leipzig was brilliant as well, clinical. Rashford obviously phenomenal in that game as well. Sort of hat-trick off the bench, wasn't it, I believe. So absolutely phenomenal. Then you go to Istanbul and losing the way we did, which was just a tip. And that's a typical post-Fergie performance, I think, really. Just drab. There wasn't much to it. There was no real plan. Obviously, the first goal, we get caught napping on another level. The whole team sort of beyond the halfway line. Demba Ba's got a free run at it, and then sorts of Sebastian Henderson.
It was see the photo. Did you see the photo? And it was the full team were like on the edge of the opposition box. And I'm like you literally learn that whenever you're growing up. Like you learn that whenever you're a young boy playing football for your local team.
Yeah,
and they're doing that, and they play for United. It's
so cool.
It feels like some of the players just don't understand how much the badge means, and it's just annoying. Like, they don't concentrate, they don't put in enough effort. But anyway, that conversation is definitely for another day. So yeah, what do you think? How do you think we'll fare in the Champions League going forward?
Again, tough to say. Get a couple of good legs together, and that's me assuming that we're getting out of the group, which I think we probably still will. I hope that we still will. I hope I'm not testing.
I think we still will.
That. Yeah, but get a couple of good legs together. We might. I reckon probably the quarters is about as optimistic as I can be. Get past around 16, as we sort of did last time, didn't we? As we were in the Champions League, obviously the PSG game sort of overturned that and got us through to the quarters, and then we got sort of smoked by Barcelona in the end then. But hopefully we can sort of get through to the quarters at least. Anything more than that would be massively exciting. But who knows? I'd probably say I'd put my hat on the quarterfinals.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can get further. And you never know, United. I mean, whenever we come up against bigger teams, Ollie's magic comes out, and it seems as if he just turned on the style. All the players managed to do well. But anyway, it's been great having you on, mate. We're just going to cut it off here. 40 minutes is okay. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, everyone knows who you are, mate. You're with United District. Great, doing a great job over there. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
No, thank you for having me on, mate. I've really enjoyed it, and good luck with things going forward. I'll be more than happy to come on again, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be great to get you on in the future, mate. But anyway, guys, just before we log off here, make sure to like and subscribe to Trafford Talk, and obviously follow our socials. Thanks.